All right, I'm going to start. 11:24. Every minute of the 46 minutes. All right, so here's the next step to managing flight training. So we're taking demonstrations next door. Aopa Flight Training Advantage. So it's AFTA, as we call it. Already? All right, so my name is Pablo Maurelia, Senior Director of Flight Training Technology for Aopa, as the shirt says, the big logo. And so usually when I do this, it's a demo for the iPad and all the portals, and it takes an hour just to do the iPad. So what I'm going to show you is basically the really high level stuff. I'm going to show you some streams, I'll hit some buttons, and I'll tell you as I go. Same thing, we'll try to get to all the portals. It's a lot, okay, because it's got a lot of features in it. So if you want to see anything, let me know. We can set up a Teams demo. I do those all the time. We can do something here if you'd like. We can show you anytime you want, so just let me know, okay? So, and then at the end we can ask questions, but there's a lot to see. So a little about me, as the slide says. I'm Pilot, of course. I host the soon-to-be famous, but yet award-winning monthly webinar on AOPA. Called Don't Get Rusty. It's not affiliated with Rusty, the Rusty Pilot Program. I know the Rusty's in there, but it's not. But I do have a co-host with me, Chris Moser. There he is. It is a great show. So tune in. Ice Maybe was last month, so that gives you an indication our titles are not the best part of the program. Sacred Animals, I do a lot of the, I haven't done in a while now, but Pilots and Paws, basically jumping into pools to save frogs because my wife picking up raccoons. Anyway, it's ridiculous, but I have to do it. Elron Tech Guy, so that's what I do here, right? So this app was created by us, AOPA, but both requirements, and so I think I'm probably the right guy to use as many features as I can. All right, so even though I will be discussing this and showing it to you, I do have a video that does a nice round out of it. So it's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I think you'll like it. And keep a lot of things in mind as you go. And then if I miss it or if I don't give you everything you want, let me know later. We'll talk about it.
As pilots, we know that flying is among life's great experiences. Learning to fly can be a challenge, but now there's an innovation in pilot training that increases efficiency, streamlines the training process, and improves student retention. The AOPA Flight Training Advantage uses an iPad app and web portals to create an adaptive, dynamic training experience that's unique to each student. Designed to address the most common reasons students drop out of flight training, the AOPA Flight Training Advantage system is used by flight schools, CFIs, and students to make training more effective, efficient, and fun. Flight school owners can see key business metrics at a glance, create notifications for their school, or add their own training resources to the system. They can even create their own reports to highlight just the information they need. With instant access to student records, school owners can quickly see how each student is progressing. CFIs can easily see what's ahead and be prepared for every student. Each lesson is dynamically created for your student based on their past performance. The system also assigns preparation materials and shows when the student has viewed them, so the student can come to every lesson armed with essential information about the concepts and maneuvers they will learn. If a student misses a portion of the assigned prep work, it's clearly marked for the CFI to review before flying. And if an instructor can't make it to the lesson, it's simple for another CFI to quickly step in temporarily with all of the necessary lesson information without missing a beat. With instant access to the student's entire training history and the system-generated lesson ready to go, there's no need to waste time trying to figure out what the student has learned and what they should do next. When it's time to fly, all the activities for the lesson are set out in the app. It's easy to measure and record student performance against FAA standards. On the ground or in the air, instructors have access to detailed information about every maneuver, along with teaching tips from experienced pros. And when conditions change, it's easy to add or skip activities to create an ideal lesson for the real world. Student scores and CFI notes make it easy to debrief at the end of the lesson. And the app automatically creates the next lesson and assigns the next lesson prep work based on the student's past performance, adult learning principles, and FAA requirements to help make training efficient and effective. You can also easily schedule the next lesson. Students can check their progress, access their training records, and prepare for their next lesson from any device, making it easy to keep moving toward their goals and share the fun and adventure of learning to fly. Learn how you can get the AOPA Flight Training Advantage at aopa.org/AFTA.
Wow, that did a better job than I thought. So, if anyone wants to use it, that's it. Go there. Now, okay, so we'll talk about a lot of that stuff, but one of the things that really, we'll call it the bread and butter of this thing, is the adaptive lesson creation. And so, when we get into the iPad, because I will show you that, we'll see how that's done and why we do it, right? So, it's a couple things to cover. First, it's iPad only, okay, not iPhone, not Android. The reason I say that after I say iPad only is because I still get people that tell me, hey, I can't download it. And I spent 40 minutes with somebody, it should work. And they're like, but my phone, I'm like, you're on your phone. It's an iPad app, right? So, and it does not do Android, right? So the thought there was ForeFlight is the iPad, right? That's why a lot of us get an iPad, so that's why we did that. But you go to the Apple iPad from your iPad, go to the App Store, and you look for flight training, and then you'll get 3 apps. Ours is just a white logo with the blue wings. Portals, now the portals, the iPad app is for instructors only. Okay, I've had people try to sign up students with it. No, it is strictly for instructors. The reason for that is because of the offline capabilities. It's unlike other apps. It's meant to be used in cockpit. You grade in cockpit, take your notes. I'll show you how to do that. You don't write or anything like that, but there's easy ways to take notes that on the debrief at the end, in the post-flight, then you can put your notes in. All right, so that's why we do that. Portals are for the owners and the students, and they can access that from any device. They can do it from an iPad, iPhone, whatever. So let's talk about the adaptive lesson creation. So that is something that we still get questions about. It's not so much a syllabus as in you're going to see lessons 1 through 50, right? That's not the way it works. Everybody starts with the same lesson, of course. You have to start somewhere. That first lesson consists of 8 activities. And it's essentially a basic starting lesson, right? Where most instructors would start. You go to the cockpit, you start your pre-flight, and you'll see that screen. And it basically shows the lesson. The instructor can talk about all the things that have to happen, what you're going to do, right? It's laid out. Here's what we're doing today. Go fly. It goes into offline mode. So you have everything, and in the activity index, you've got everything you need to teach someone to fly. When you get in there, you can rearrange things. Activities is what we call them. Tasks forever, but the practical things you're going to be doing, they're set in there. You can change them. We have parameters, and that's how things are graded. So it's plus 50 feet, right? Plus minus 50 feet, plus whatever. And there's a whole scale of it, and it's all right there, really listed, so that when you grade something, you move on, when you finish, you debrief. After you've done that, when you hit finalize, is when the adaptive happens. Right? So it's a secret recipe I can't give you. The Coke recipe. However, it is in the vault somewhere, and it takes an entire history of that student's training, all their grades, when they did something, how they did on it, how long it's been since they've done something, and by done I mean graded. Okay, so if an activity is attempted and graded, then that means it's done. Okay, so and based on those grades, the system takes all of those and creates the next lesson, and that's meant to keep the student moving forward. Okay, so our goal was, and I'm talking to Chris, I know I had this in my training. There's days, a month, where every day I come in and what are we doing today? Let's do landings. That was a pretty good landing. Flying around, the pattern was fantastic. So that's what we want to keep from doing. Also, the repetitiveness of maybe you did seat turns yesterday, you come in today, we do them again, that's cool, but then the next time we're going to do them again? Hopefully not, right? So one of the things we built in too, real quick, was skipping something for a lesson and then bring it back. So again, you're not repeating something. An instructor at any time can customize anything by adding an activity, not creating an activity, and so on. So all of those things are taken into account when creating the next lesson. And then the student sees them, the instructor can see the next lesson, and there's homework that's automatically assigned. Okay? It's called prep. A lot of those things we name things differently so they have a different feeling inside their head. We don't want to assign homework, we want to assign prep. They're very different, but the same. Our curriculum is an FAA-based curriculum. Okay, we're not following the sport for Jefferson. We're not following those things. It's literally an FAA-based curriculum. All right, so why do we build this? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but because it's based on paperwork, it's one of the reasons, right? So I went to a school, and the instructor pulled out a bag because I was going to help him enter his students like the first lesson. And it was one of those where on the paper, no, that's not it. No, you know, this notebook of stuff, papers. It's like, all the students' history, like I said, is in there. All the requirements they have accomplished or have not accomplished. All their lessons, groundwork, and logbook. So it's all in there. So there's nothing you need to figure out, like, what are we doing today, or what's going on, or what did we just do? Also, you saw in the video it said, if you can't teach and another instructor is going to take your student, you can do that. So from an iPad, the instructor signs in and says, I'm taking Chris today as my student. They go in there, and because it's not that person's student, they click that button, and show you a temp student, it becomes that student, your student for the day. So that way, you know where they've been. You don't have to sit there and wonder, what should we do? I'm not just a substitute teacher today, right? The whole point is to teach. And then based on that, you can continue teaching that student. After the lesson's finalized, the instructor now knows what you did. And they'll keep it moving forward, so then they know how it went, they know the curriculum, they know the grades, everything that they got. So, what we'll see today is pre-flight, flight, post-flight. So, you know, we try to break it up into what you would do in actually teaching. So, enough of me talking, because I need water. Let's see. There it is. All right. So this is, I didn't want to sign in because, you know, they're super long logins at this point. I've got 500 of them. This is the dashboard. The minute you sign in as an instructor, remember this is the iPad app. You're looking at the live app. This is what you would see. There's a little different version of it. Essentially, it just has 2 more boxes. So there'll be a pointer. They have this one. All right. So down here, you just have 2 more boxes, and that's because we've integrated with hold short and flight circle scheduling. And so you would see squawks. You would see your next students, you'd see more info, you'd see, like for example here, this is just from the database. But if I was integrated with one of the 2 scheduling systems, then I would also see the tail number and the time, not just a list of students. So I see what time they're at. So it just pulls all that stuff in from either one of those things. And it's one-time sign-in, so the first time you go in there, you sign into that, whatever account it is, and then it'll bring that up. All right, so let's click on Charles Lindbergh. I think we've heard of him, but any resemblance to real life is strictly coincidence. Pre-flight, you can see top left there, right? It says pre-flight, so this is exactly like I said, we're trying to follow how you would do it. We're not trying to do something totally out of the box here. So you'll notice top right, there's a couple buttons. Essentially, anything yellow and big means that's where you go next. Anything blue or different color, or maybe even just white, means it's something that you would do later. Don't worry about that now, right? So we try to make it as easy as possible. Go fly. You can see your hours, and this is what I was talking about. You've got your next lesson, your prep. See all those green check marks there under assigned prep? That's one of the things that the video mentioned. That's the prep work that was assigned for this lesson. Okay, and you did 1-to-1. We assigned 1 thing per. So you say to yourself, you're a moron because there's 5 things on the prep side. That's because as an instructor, I added 1 extra item for that student because it was only 4. So I added another assignment for them to do. So those would all be red X's the minute it's assigned. The student from their portal, so you can click here as an instructor. I just hit a seat turn. So as an instructor, I can hit that and I say, okay, let's look at this and look at the seat turns, right? So, all right. It would still remain as a red X. It's only if the student, okay, you can click on anything you want, but only if the student clicks on it will it automatically turn green. And this is one of the things that we often say too is transparency. So there's transparency on the instructor side and the student side. So if maybe they're not progressing as you would like or as they would like, you can see patterns, right? They're never finishing something. Every time they show up, everything's still a red X. Well, right? Lack of preparation. I wouldn't put it that way, but I say maybe we need to do some things different, right? So there's that. All right, you can also see previous lessons and skipped. Again, this is nothing you have to write down. It's all right here. You get the entire student history. I'll click on this lesson history in the bottom right. And there's everything. There's all your paperwork. Now this is just a cursory look at things. If you want to dig into something, you'll notice right here, that means that it's a simulator lesson, and that just lays it out for you nicely, so visually you can say, oh, simulator, I'll have to look at that. If I hit this 4.7 here, you can see the actual lesson. Okay, you'll see the logbook. It is uneditable. You can see if they earned any badges. You can see the scores that were given, and you can see these labels here just mean what that activity meant for that lesson. So in this case, I, as an instructor, added forward slip to landing. It was not automatically assigned. And those things were important as we went testing, because I was like, why is that appearing? You know, that shouldn't be there. And we can learn a lot from that. If we see instructors consistently adding something times, you know, throughout the lessons or the history of a student, we can start adding that or changing our algorithm to, you know, to make it a little better. New means that was the first time it was assigned and graded, and review means that it's something that came in that was, remember I told you that we don't repeat things? In this case, this is something brand new that says once you've become proficient at something, we don't bring it back for a minimum of 4 lessons. There's no need to continue doing something to hit the proficiency level on it. So what we do is we bring it back at the earliest, would be that 5th lesson. If they grade proficient again, we take it away again. If not, it falls right back into rotation because they've fallen out of proficiency. So all of these things, if you had to keep track of this, or wanted to keep track of it, or you know, to keep the student moving forward, it'd be hard to do it, right? I mean, you could do it, I'm sure, with a spreadsheet or something, but let us do it for you. So that's that. Now, the big bread and butter, we go fly. Here's what we see. Again, we're offline, remember, so everything here works offline. Like any iOS app, I'm just going to drag these things and put them in the right order. So pre-solo is probably something I do before sleep turn. I'm sorry, pre-flight inspection. Turn front point, sleep turn, slow flight. Okay. So then, whenever I touch these, you'll notice on the right side, everything changes. Some have parameters, some don't. I think 7 is the biggest number of parameters. And this is something so you don't have to remember, right? It's going to be 3 or 4, I don't know. But you know what? When you hit one of those to grade it, for example, steep turns, if they were plus -10, you'll notice they're turning yellow on top. Notice the bottom. We're not grading it for you. You're still grading it. But it's telling you that it should be a 3 or 4 based on those parameters. Now, granted, this one's pretty easy. You get a lot more, right? And you're in the cockpit. You know, they're going, okay, that should be something. You know what I mean? So here we're just telling you, based on those parameters that you gave the student, that's a 3 or 4. In this case, we'll go with 4. That's how you know it's graded. And then you'll notice on the top, it actually has the number now next to it. The common errors is probably one of the things I like the most in this, because you'll notice that every one of these things has at least one common error. Okay, this one has several. That's almost like a post-it note, so you don't have to bring a stylus, you don't have to bring your finger, you don't have to bring a keyboard to the cockpit. All right, leave your fingers at home. It's hard to do that while you're right. I mean, how many times has something fallen off your lap? The pen, where's the pen, right? All that stuff. So by doing this, you could say proper use of heading ref, uncoordinated flight, and not able to hold a proper bank, right? By hitting these at the end in the post-flight, I'll be reminded, and that's when I make my notes. That's when I could, you know, elaborate on proper use of heading ref. What does that mean, right? So we fly through this, and let's add an activity. Remember, you can add anything. We're not telling you how to teach. Okay, we're merely just giving you an outline of how to move the student forward. So here, let's say we want to move a little bit forward. You'll notice all the prefixes. That just means the stage of flight, so it's either cross country or pre-solo. All right. So in this case, I think we're probably ready to move a little forward here. So we'll do diversion. Now the things on this list are things that you have not done in this lesson. Okay, so there's no point. It's a bigger lesson of including those things as well. It just gets cluttered. So we'll save it. You'll notice it's automatically put at the bottom on the left. So we want to do that. Pretty good. Those and we'll do 3. All right. So in the cockpit here, at the top, there's an I. If for whatever reason, let's say you're new to this, you could say, oh, I just want to know a few things before we get there. Maybe you know your student is fairly new to this and is first right out of the box as an instructor. Oh my gosh, I forgot how to teach diversion. You can look at a couple of checklists, a couple of things we have, and this goes a little bit more detail into those common errors that you're selecting and teaching tips. Now this one doesn't have any. Fix that. Take notes. All right, done. All right, so from here we're going to hit done flying at the bottom. Sorry, I'm going to speed up a little bit because I want to show you everything I can. Got your flight logbook here, right? So we'll just do this real quick. quick. I won't talk you through. I think you've all seen this before. Put in fake airplane, landings, 2, roof flight, okay, short flight there. Alright, so that's it. Now, you'll notice there's a more. The logbook does have everything, but those are lesser used. In this case, we wouldn't use those. This box here, the lesson highlights, is strictly highlights, it's not notes. Okay, that's one of the misconceptions here. This is, hey, you did great today, or not as good as you wanted it, but look at the improvements you've made, right? This is supposed to be uplifting highlights. You didn't throw up today, congratulations. Right? So, now, remember, now we're back at the school, and we're going over these things, so we say, okay, we didn't do pre-flight, we didn't do maneuvering, but we did do these other things, so I'm going to add notes. We're going to seat turns. We give you an exact copy of what you graded and common errors if there are any. So here you could say, Chris, good job, you had a couple errors, but you know, you can fix those. You'll notice, I don't know if you can see back there, these have X's, so if you were nicer, you could say, oh, I was really mad at you up there because you were doing so bad at the time. You know, you could get rid of some of these right there. You can say, yeah, pile on. Or we could say, you were worse than I thought, and add some more, okay? And that's my favorite problem. So when we do that, this is where you enter notes. Now these notes are for seat turns. Each activity has its own notes area, okay? So here you would just enter a nice job. All right, done. I won't do so much of that. We can assign ground since we are doing our post-flight here, right? So we can say, let's do use 6 feet on them. So we can do that here. Also, you'll notice if I hit finalize, it won't let me. Why? Ooh, we need to skip reason. Remember our logic. We need to know why you didn't do something. It helps the logic. So the no score, the red ones, those are the ones that need to be scored, right? So you'll notice here, because we have 2, we wanted to make it, because there might be days where a student does get sick and you did 1 of 8 things, right? You don't have to enter 1 for each. Let's say you just ran out of time. Cool. I selected out of time. You can repeat on all skipped activities, or you notice on the other side it says add scores. Perhaps you made me sick because you were so bad. So I just put the iPad away. I can actually grade it on the ground as well. Okay, so we gave you many opportunities. So if the grade doesn't come out the way you wanted, it's your fault. No, I'm just kidding. No, you've got plenty of opportunities, but it is your fault. So we'll hit skip on all, and you'll notice this turned, and we marked it as skipped, and we gave it the same reason, and if there's any notes. So we'll hit finalize on the bottom right, and boom. Now this is, you can probably feel it in the room, but there's magic happening. So we bought into this history, created the next lesson. Now this Charles Lindbergh guy, he's progressed pretty good. You got to remember this is a test student too. So it's a smaller list because, well, that's the next lesson. This is based on his history. This is what he has done throughout. And so a couple review items. Another item that has to be done because it's just in the lineup. No badges were earned, and that's the homework. And remember, it's 1 to 1. So here, bottom left, this is where I could add more if I wanted. I could say, you know what, I don't like the handbook or, oh gosh, or the AFH or either. I don't like any of that. I could just hit my own and assign stuff. Okay. Now, it's only going to pull up things for those activities. We're not just going to pull up the entire, right? I mean, that would be ridiculous. If you're here all day, people just wouldn't use it. So, and that's it. Oh, you can also assign a custom badge if you'd like, but again, that's not paperwork related, so I'm not allowed to show that. Done. And there you go. That's the app. How am I doing? Okay, got a little bit of time. So that's the app. Again, I've only showed you a piece of it. I'm going to show you one other piece that can replace your book, so you don't have to have all of those. So on the bottom right, it's the activity index. Right? So, and this is everything in the system, every activity, all the homework, everything. So let's say that I know we're doing steep turns. Hit that, I go to steep turns. I'm going to get 9 tabs. Sometimes there's 8. We're not going to go into those things. It's hard not to talk about it all. So and you can see all the stuff we go through. So each one of these is painstakingly entered by either Chris or I. Me? I. Either way, it was fantastic and it was a lot of fun. So, and you can see, this is everything an instructor could possibly need. Now, granted, there's other reference areas, but look at this. Teaching tips, procedures, prep. This is all of the homework the system assigns. Okay? You don't have to remember any of this. In the order that it will be assigned. Even better. So if you choose, you can actually move ahead and tell a student, instead, let's do this. Let's move all the way down here. And so every activity has this, okay? And regulatory, which at times can be pretty important too if you forgot why you're doing something. Right? Yes, question?
That last screen listed a link to the Sporty's Learn to Fly course for ski terms. Does the student have to have a subscription?
For some of it. There's the free portion in there. If they have a subscription, it'll automatically go there.
They'll get something if they go there.
Right.
Maybe not.
Yes?
First of all, this looks amazing.
Thank you.
Second of all, I like the highlights box. Is there a miscellaneous suggestions box? Like maybe all our reviewers were awesome, but their situational awareness was terrible. Can we write that in anywhere?
Yeah, you could write it there, absolutely. I mean, the title of it is highlights. Is it was meant to be this kind of, for maybe, particularly at the beginning, for students that maybe aren't, it's ones and twos, and like, oh, I'm so bad at this, I'm never, right? That's what it was meant for. But obviously, as they go into training and progress a little bit, you can put stuff in there like that. Say, it doesn't have to all be, sugar and candy, right? It could be a little vinegar and spice. But remember, the student sees it. We've been asked to put something in for instructors only, and it was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I said, no, it's a stupid idea. Because you know what's going to happen? The student will see it at some point. And that's not good. So, and then one last thing. Let's say, for example, I can't teach Paul today, so Chris is going to do it for me. He would sign in. He would go to my students. He wouldn't see these students because these are primaries to me. So he would hit on the top right, there's a temp student button, and this is what the video showed. It'll show all active students within your school. And this gives you the opportunity to be the substitute teacher for the day. So he's going to take Paul Browning, and it would open it up. Right, so he could see everything I just showed you. He doesn't have to sit there and go, oh man, what did he say we had to do today? That kind of, it's all right there. At the end, same thing. The instructor on me would see what they did today and how they graded it. Right, so then I could say, Chris is never teaching again. So, all right, so that's that. Let's go back to, let's see if this works. This is so exciting. Okay, so owner's portal. High level overview. CFI view, student view. So this, as an owner, you get to see this. By the way, how much time do we have?
Yeah, 19 minutes.
Oh my, okay. High level school overview. That's, so as an owner, you sign in, you see these numbers that you can set. I'll show you that. Let's just go to it. And that one. Okay. Owner, that's the owner's view. Let's talk about it here instead of reviewing and regurgitating. Owner's view, I've signed in already. I've taken the liberty to do that. You can see the numbers on top. Those are all customizable by this configure stats here. This. All configurable here. It just changes those numbers for month, quarterly, any date you'd like. Also lifetime, that's obviously what that means. You can also choose not to show things or whatever. Now those are really high level, right? That's kind of whatever. If you hit this export button, you can see the ways that you can export it. Now, you're not just exporting these four numbers, that would be ridiculous. What you're actually exporting is all of your instructors by name and all of their stats, including students as well. So it's more of a way for you to create your own tailored kind of report. If you'd like a different report, let me know, we'll create it for you. So you can see your students by stage as well. Notice this down here, this is the one that changes as well if you have the integration into either Bolt Short or Flight Circle. This will change to show you SWATs and then the airplane information and student notices as well if someone's expired and stuff like that. So on the left side, you'll see a couple things here. What I'm going to show you is a high level on the students I'll hit. All right, so this is all your students, obviously high level. You can see their name, obviously, who their CFI is, how many hours they have, what goal they're progressing to, and that's because we do sport and rec as well, and that's chosen when you add a student. Okay, and then it tailors the prep work and obviously the lessons. And you can see how far they are, and you can see if they're active. If you see inactive, that merely means, just like the FAA, we didn't do anything special, 90 days of inactivity. Right, so if there's nothing in here that says, oh my gosh, what does that mean? We made it this way so that as an owner, perhaps you knew that Bill Boeing was going to be something in the future. You wanted to fast track him. He's been here for 5 months. He's got 18 hours. Right, you're like, Chris is doing a good job. So we got to move forward. He's going for his private, he's only 25% done. So you could look into it, so we could hit the student's name, and I'll do that here. Remember, this is all paperwork stuff that you don't have to keep a file on, right? So he looks older than he actually is, so you can see some basic information, and you can see some more tabs here. So These are the same ones that were in the iPad app. However, from here, it's a little different view. Because you don't get to edit a lot of things, right? You're the owner. So you're nobody here. The CFI is important. So let me show you these. What I like to show is, again, this is something you can't really do with paper very well, which is, I like to call it the what I've done, how I've progressed. That's how far I've gone, right? I'm 25% done. You can see in both stages. That's how far I've gotten in each one of those categories. Sure, it doesn't tell you a whole lot other than you're pretty new, right? If you want to see what's left to do, so what 44% is, yes, the 44% of aircraft controls remain, how would I do that? So you'll notice another tab, course requirements. From there, we show you several different ways to look at it. So one is by category, just like you saw, but instead of the percentage, we tell you that aircraft control, there's 22 activities within there, you've done 8 of them. Okay, so what's left? Well, there's several. So if we hit, I'm going to touch that aircraft control. Easily, you can use a green marker, I guess, in your notebook, but in this case, we've done it easily for you. All of the green are proficient, I said that word earlier, right? So anything here would not be assigned again for a minimum of 4 lessons. Some aren't assigned at all again, as a lot of basic, like straight level. We're not going to be reviewing that, 40 hours, we're not reviewing straight level anymore. But you can see the grade, they're proficient. If there is a grade, that means they're not proficient yet, so it's not done. So that's what's left, right? Really easy. If you want to go into it a little further, look at that same activity index from before. All right, so at the bottom also, you can keep track if you like, but even better, we have everything that's required to be a private pilot. As they happen in the system, you don't have to write them down, they're already here. Look at the check, it'll turn green, done, done, done. When you complete your 3 hours, that'll turn green, and you can see here how far you've got to go. So you're 18.9 out of 40. I don't have to review everything, it's all right there. Very easily done in front of you. Remember, I'm still the owner. This is a browser, it's on an app. This is our CFI view. Time check.
You have 14 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay. CFI view. Same thing as a student, except obviously there's no flying hours in that sense. However, we do have that view. So on Jamie Beckett, let's say that me as an owner like to do 1-to-1. If you do an hour of training, you got to do an hour on the ground, right? So at some point, if you have 18 hours of flying, you should have 18 hours of ground. I can see that. I will hit, let's do, look at these names. Let's do Wilbur. Wilbur here. All right. Ooh, not good. But he's following along. I've never done this on the iPad, so it's on my laptop. You can see I show all of the students and where they're at in terms of hours. Okay, the different colors mean you got total hours and flight hours. So total hours will be ground as well. So in this case, you can see that not very good, right? So in essence, he's only taught maybe 2 hours more than he's flown. So if we wanted to see what we want, the total hours should be double our flight hours, right? 1-to-1, 1 hour flying, 1 hour. So that should be double that. So he's not following along, he will be fired at the end of the day. Prep materials, as an owner, this is something that's really cool. If you have, we as Aopa have uploaded all those things that I showed you in the same categories. My upload is that. Me as an owner can upload anything I want by hitting this button, and I can upload my own stuff. If I have the best steep turn curriculum in the world, all of you can't have it. I'm going to put it here. Okay, if you enter something in the system signed in as you, the owner, it doesn't go anywhere else. Okay, it's not shared among users. Know that. Okay, it's you only. So I would do that. If I hit that button, I enter here and I tell it where to put it. So in this case, right, aircraft control. Now look for steep turns. I won't go through all that. We only have maybe 12 minutes. So, and that's how I add it. Now, if I want to see what's already in here, maybe I want to compare, I can see that. Okay. Everything listed. Okay, that's a lot. Now, there's also resources. So I'm going to skip a couple things here. Resources. Resources is just that. Okay. Unassignable, non-assignable within the system. This is a library. You have some security, you got, I don't know, t-shirt sizes, something you want to put in here that would go in here again, not shared with anyone else. It's your own system. System resources are things that Aopa has entered. If anyone in here, and it's some names I recognize on the list, is going to use this, and you have your student with hours, this is just me saying it, and you're going to enter them in the system for the first time. Don't make up a fake lesson. Don't do the first lesson as 22 hours and then make some stuff up. That's ridiculous. We've done that for you. Watch this one, 1B in your owner's portal resources. I put an email I send you guys, but no one reads those, so I'm telling you. Okay. 1B, that's the big one. Maybe I'll make it 1A, but watch them both. Okay, activities. You are allowed to add your own prep work for activities. Remember, those are things that are assigned by the system when a certain activity is assigned. So let's go back to Steve turns. So I hit aircraft control. Steve turns. You've got your overview again. The prep. Remember, that's our code word for homework. Pretty stealthy. This is everything in the order it's going to be assigned. If you want to add order it's assigned, remember that. This is the big number here. They don't have to be in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason we've left these with so much in between is because it's made for you, the owner, to put in your work where it's going to be assigned. If you like to kick off Steve turns the first time it's assigned with your absolute secret sauce, you would put it as a 1, and this would become a 2. And that means the first time it's assigned, it goes here. The second time it's assigned, scored. It's the third, and so on and so forth. All right, so you can't put your own homework in there. Okay, we don't need to go the rest of it because now I have to show you the video. All right, there's more to see. All right. Okay, here it is. So this is the student portal, which is pretty cool because it's more colorful. So this is Bill Boeing. This is the student view. You can see all the badges they've earned. Shareable, of course, in today's time by social media. And just let's say I want to do my first solo. I touch it, and this is where I can share it. All right? You can't do that with paper. You get these 3 tiles of information: the last lesson, next lesson, notices. Right? So this is if your medical is about to expire. This is if your currency is going to go. Anything like that. Now, if you've got the integration, you'll also see your next lesson. There'll be a date of the next lesson at the time. Okay. So last lesson, that is literally we'll call it the highlight of the last lesson. The one thing you did the best at, that's based on the grade that was assigned. In this case, it's a Y, you'll notice that's on the 5. One of the few things I didn't go over there was there are things that are just called completed yes or no. You can't really grade collision motors. You could, I guess, but it was yes or no. Right? They understand it or not. In this case, pre-flight inspection, we're early on. Yes, they got it. Okay, cool. So they didn't do very well on other things apparently. A lot of things you can do here. You can't do post-flight or memory book with paper and pen, but you can here. So to prepare for our next lesson, we see the 3 activities. These labels are kind of like you saw before in the history. This is telling you you've never seen this before. Okay. First time assignment. Here, I've already done flight tech management, so I don't need to really look at that. Let's say I had to go for dinner and then I came back. I have these 2 left. I can see the whole page with more info on each one of these by hitting that big yellow button. There you go. So those are the 3 activities new. You can see a little more detail on that. So here, if I click on it, it'll just blow it up. I'm going to show you that. See, it's browser activity. Okay. And so as a student, also, I get to see my lesson history, which looks a lot like the one from the instructor, except it's honestly just me. And I can see all of these, and if I earned a badge, I can put pictures. I can rename things. They're automatically named a lesson, but I can rename it something that, I got a little further without getting sick. If I want to see what actually happened, I just hit it, and it will give me just like before, right? So this is where I could review. If there were notes, I would see them here, right? So, and this is an exact duplicate, and this instructor did not put parameters in, which is bad instructor. But you can see everything that happened here, right? So there's that transparency again. And this is good for students, so if something keeps being assigned, you can say, you keep getting forced on this stuff, why are we doing it every day, right? It empowers the student a little bit, maybe some people don't like it. So that's it. You could edit the nickname of the lesson here as well. All right. You can see your progress as well. Like I said, there's a lot. Same screen as you saw in the owners, right? Same stuff. You can get to it You notice there's no tags or no tabs. That's because it's something that the instructor can do that you can't. So if I click on successes, which is bottom left, you'll actually see those on that page. So everything here is clickable. Like I can click on that. I can click everything, almost everything. Here, again, I can see the same things. I can get to that activity index. I see how far I am, all that stuff, right? Resources, bottom again. This is the stuff that my school put in. I need to review that. Okay. Again, high level. So let's go back to the slides. What's next? Okay. All right. Woo. All right. So student prep, next lesson, what's left, all that stuff. Almost last, register. If you would like to use these two things, one, you would go to aopa.org/AFTA. So after this lesson, you can go there. There's 3 tracks you'll see. Okay, you'll see a link to this video that you saw earlier. You'll also see student, school, and instructor. I don't have to explain that. We all know which one we fall under. If you're an independent instructor, that's fine. Just click instructor. There will also be a link that says if you're an independent, link here. Okay, and that's within the instructor segment. Cost, very important. Okay, really important. It's free. That's right. Free. Schools and instructors are free. Students are free for the first 3 months. 3 months only. We tried to get more. So, free. It's like that commercial. Free. And then it's $19.95 a month on a subscription. Yes?
What about those that you have successfully finished? They've gone on. Do they have to keep paying in order to see any of this data and resources that they've had?
They would. However, it can be downloaded.
Okay.
So they can keep. Any questions that anyone has after this, they can go to afta@aop.org and they'll come to us, and then we will be able to answer it. Chris will see them. And finally, ftinitiative@aop.org is also another way to contact us. You can do my personal email. But one of those does go there. So, ask questions if you'd like. And now, since we have 4 minutes, questions. Yes.
So my student successfully completes their private training. Mm-hmm. Does this roll right into instrument commercial, and how far does this go?
Right now, first iteration, we just released in March 30th, 1 day short of April Fool's, not intentional. We just released it, so it'll be a year. We had to start somewhere, right? So we started with private. We don't have the other ones yet, but Chris and I are working on instrument, and the 141 is also being, I guess, looked at, we could call it right now, but we want to try to get that. So there's nothing else yet, but the intent is obviously to get the student moving forward. Private only, right? Part 61.
Part 61, private.
Questions?
Hey, Pablo, can you explain what those parameters were when you see the grading screen come up?
Sure.
And you have that whole list of parameters. Mm-hmm. What are those?
All right, so the parameters on the grading is to what tolerances the activity was completed, right? On a steep turn, bank angle, speed, all those things. And yes, no, I think is one of the parameters for some of these things, but it's always going to be a plus or minus something. It'll be speed, knots, it'll be altitude, bank angle, things like that. So each one of those has at least one parameter, and that's where you get to the bottom where we tell you, hey, based on what you just said, the student did these things on, and it's cumulative, right? So if you did 4 steep turns, you're not grading each steep turn. You're grading the whole set of steep turns as one. Yes?
Where is it considered proficient so that it doesn't repeat?
So everything, there's a lot of activities that we know. Right. They have different kind of, there's some that have to be proficient to a 3 score a certain amount of times, within a certain amount of time. It's complicated. There's some that just have to be once to a 3. There's some that have to be attempted at least 3 times to a 3. But we'll call 3 the magic number. If you get a 3 or above, and there's different rules if you get a 4 or 5 on something as well. You don't have to do it as many times. So there's a lot of little rules like that, but I think 3 is probably your magic number.
Hey, Pablo, if I can answer too, the 3 is for pre-solo, so it was a kind of a criteria we set based on ACS. So that's for a pre-solo student. 4 is ACS level. 5 is above and beyond that. So it's sort of like your gold star.
And if you didn't see it within the app itself, we actually tell you too. So there's no secrets on that. So if I give this a 3 for normal approach, you'll see here at the bottom we tell you what a 3 means for normal approach.
Can you read that for the people in the back?
Sure. It says approaching standards but still needs practice, can perform the procedure / maneuvers, basic steps, and identify the desired performance level. So, and then 4 obviously changes. It says currently meets PTS, ACS standards, and so on. So each one of those, for every activity, you'll get a definition of what that particular score means for that activity. All manual equipment.
Can you customize the grading scale, or
you cannot? No. Of course. Yes.
So you.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the back. Let's see. He got it up a couple times. Go ahead.
So basically, your time is all to the ACS.
Correct.
So can we customize the order we want to do something, like round reference maneuvers with 4 stalls, or is that order kind of generated, auto-generated?
It's auto-generated. You can at any time select right within this if the student looks better this way. It's meant to be. All right. So at any time, like here, no. So let's say that you want to do steep turns instead of, stalls instead of steep turns. I'll be in there actually. You could actually hit that add activity button and break something up yourself. It is meant to be customizable within the lesson itself. So you don't, like I was saying before, you don't have, this isn't like, do this lesson. You suck. We did it for you. That's not, it's, as the student has gone based on you, the instructor, here's what we think is next to keep the student moving. So you could say, a bit early, I'm not doing steep turns this time, right? You almost killed me last time. You could say that. Now, if that were the case,
or it's overcast and you want to go.
Exactly. Or windy. Let's say you want to get the crosswinds in because we haven't had a windy day in a month, right? So you can do that. And then you can also not grade something, which is what we call a skip. So that's an instructor skip. So if I grade everything, except for, well, if I don't grade anything, if that's the only thing we do today, that skip is called an instructor skip. And that goes into the algorithm as to what comes next.
And just so you know, all that was designed, we did building block approach, so how all the maneuvers come based on several CFIs we got together and we talked about where would we put this. We try to put it in what would be the most common order.
But we can't go out of order if we want to.
Yes, that's what
By adding other lessons into that particular lesson.
Yep, anything you'd like. Yeah, in the first lesson you could do night flights if you want. Because one of the things that the system does not do, in 1 second, one of the things the system does not do is tell you, an instructor or a student, that they are ready for the big milestones. We will never tell a student, you are now ready for solo. No, my goodness, can you imagine? No. What we do is we say you have met minimum 61 dot, I'm going to get this wrong, 874 solo, pending instructor. Okay, that's all we'll tell you. We won't tell you you're ready for night flight. We won't tell you you're ready for, we don't tell you those things. That's up to you, the instructor. We're just trying to help you. I think we're being very helpful, actually. Yeah, go ahead.
I like that it's customizable based on the progress. Is there like a rough syllabus you can give the student ahead of time so they can see what's coming?
Well, I mean, you can give them anything, actually, because what's going to happen, and it has been tested pretty good. I'm a little biased, but... And it seems to follow what would be considered a typical learning path. The decisions obviously are a little different based on, get the walk in the back. As to perhaps how many times to do something maybe. If you want to, you can skip. There's certain activities, which I didn't mention in the grading question, that aren't part of the PTS or ACS. So that, I can't think of one. Low approaches. Right. When they're assigned, you can look at it and go, this is dumb. I've never taught a low approach. It's ridiculous, right? That's what Chris likes to do. I don't do that. If you choose not to and you skip it, the system also knows that. There are several activities in the system that if you skip them, they won't be brought back because they're not integral in that sense. They're not FA requirements. They're not, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of logic, and I could have a whole hour on just logic.
One thing you could use for the students as that activity index, though, is show them all the stuff that they've got to do in each stage as well, so they could at least look ahead on that.
Time? We're good?
Lunch started 3 minutes ago.
Oh my goodness, you guys are hungry. All right, if anyone has questions, remember you can hit me, and or us, or ask me later. You'll see me roaming. So.